everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
Hey, my name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Al, babe, how are you, beautiful?
I'm doing pretty good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm really good. Thanks for asking. That's really nice of you to care. Or, it's not like it's the same thing you say every single time. This is something, it feels like you care this time.
I'm so original.
Yeah, it's so nice. No, I'm original too. So how's life? You got your nice little Stanley Cup there. Yeah, you're ready to go. You're ready to rock.
I've got my iced coffee that Mike lovingly prepared for me, and I am ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. If you love what we do, then there's always options. First binge the entire series,
catalog,
right?
you might say.
Yeah, the catalog. That's a good thing. So binge the whole catalog first. And then if you really love that and it's like, man, I just need more Crime and Coffee Couple. I need more Allison and Mike. I need more Ma and Pa. Well, we got good news for you.
We got you covered.
Yeah, there's over 100 different bonus episodes through Patreon or Apple subscriptions. So go check it out. If you're on Spotify, just go to Patreon, and then there's a feed just for Patreon or for Spotify. So check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what's been going on with you?
Well, yesterday something funny happened. I had come home from work, and I always do this thing where our dog will she wants to just say hello. So we have this spot. It's on our couch in our living room, and I'm giving her all her love.
What do you say to her? What do you say to her to make sure?
I always say, I gotta see you.
Yep.
And then she runs over there, and I just give her loves and kisses. And if you could see on YouTube, I'm currently rubbing her belly. But so I'm giving all the love, and then all of a sudden I hear a door slam. And by the way, I'm home alone, and I've only been home for maybe 5 minutes at this point. So I leap off the couch in fear, and I yell out, hello? And I hear nothing. So I look and I see it's our back bedroom that the door had slammed. And there's no windows open because it's hotter than hell in Florida. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, it could be the cats or it could be an axe murderer. So I run out the sliding glass door and to the back of the house, and I'm looking through the window back there, and I see our two cats, but I'm still not convinced that there's not an axe murderer back there. So I go through the kitchen and I grab our biggest butcher knife, and I'm holding it above, ready to strike.
Just like in the cartoon.
And I push the door open, and our two cats are just looking up at me. Like, what are you doing?
What's happening? Meow.
So,
Give me
of
some
course, it was our orange cat, Pickles, who we like to call Pickles the Dickles, because he's just
Major League Dickles.
He just, like, for instance, I keep calendars of our podcast episodes, and I walk over, I see the calendar has been just chewed to bits. Without question, I know exactly of the three pets who did it.
And I was kind of watching it the night it was happening. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to leave that for Allison. I think it'll be funny when she finds it.
Oh, he just always gets into something.
That would have been a pretty bad murder, just like slamming a door as soon as you came in. I mean, if I'm going to murder somebody, I'm probably just going to like wait for them, right?
But you know how sometimes a murderer, like as if I have experience with murderers,
when you run into murderers,
that they might want to taunt you and play with you before.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, if somebody does like murder any of us, like, taunt with us first, and then that way I can kill you first, and then it'd be fun. Actually, don't come over at all. So anyways, I want to mention something exciting going on in my life. I recently got a Chevy Bolt. So as you guys know, we have a 13-year-old daughter, 16-year-old son. So the 16-year-old, he's starting to drive around more. He's going to have a job here coming up soon. He's going to have like workouts 4 days a week for baseball at his school. So we're like, man, I'm not going to be able to drive you. I'm like, all right. So I gave him my old car. And then I was like, man, I hate cars. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm pretty cheap. So I hate spending money on cars, hate it. And I went into ChatGPT and was like, all right, here's my situation, what I need. And it's like, actually a 2019 to 2020 Chevy Bolt would be good for you. It's an electric vehicle, and the thing gets like 230 miles, and it's all electric. So there's no gas. I know a lot of people, it freaks you out because it's like, you could be stranded somewhere, but there's a lot of charging stations. So like I go into Google Maps and I updated my car that I have, and it's like now it's popping up with charging stations everywhere. So
right, and you drive around locally for work, so it's not like you're going long distances.
No, I'm home every night, and if I ever need to go long distance, I can always take the other car. So at least we still have it. So it's I'm kind of excited. It's got a little pickup, a little giddy up, if you will. I've been driving nothing but like basically lawnmower engines for like my whole life, just because again I hate cars.
It's just funny though, because if you look up a Chevy Bolt, they're tiny, and Mike is a guy that's 6'2", 240 pounds. So as soon as I showed the picture to my mom and sister, they're like, is he going to fit in that? I'm like, yeah.
There's actually more headroom in this car than my last car. And it's like scarlet red. I think the name is going to be Scarlet Bolt is what we've come up with.
Well, it's your car.
I mean, I'm if you're on YouTube, I'm sure I put a picture of it already, but it's like, it's such a funny looking car. It's like it's like a little fishbowl. Like what's that one guy said? I'm like a whale in a guppy tank.
That was actually my car salesman when I got my first car, because I had a little Geo Metro that was like a little fish tank, and this huge dealer guy is driving it out. He's like, I feel like a whale in a guppy tank.
And now I don't feel like that in there, but I could look like that. It's a tiny car, but it's I don't know, man. I just love it. It's a lot of fun. It's zippy, and I don't care. You know what? If you want to make fun of me, go ahead. I'll take
you got to own who you are.
I do.
And it makes sense because you get reimbursed for mileage and gas, and you're not using gas.
Right.
So
And
I think that's financially smart.
It like comes out to like 0.03 cents a mile or something instead of like 0.24 or something. I don't know. So it was
a good decision.
So far, we'll see.
We'll see. So are you ready to jump into this?
I am.
All right. So this is the murder of Ryan Poston. So in 2012, Ryan Poston, he was a handsome 29-year-old Cincinnati attorney whose career was truly on the rise, and he was on the fast track to a highly successful life. But sadly, on a fall Friday night, Ryan's life tragically ended, and it all began with a frantic 911 call that came through from his condo. So this was on Meadow Lane in the Highland Heights, Kentucky, which basically borders Ohio. So this is 11 miles southeast of Cincinnati, where Ryan lived in this condo by himself. So the phone call was placed to 911 by 21-year-old Shayna Hubers, who told the dispatcher that she killed her boyfriend in self-defense with her boyfriend's gun. So she's explaining to the dispatcher that at some point in time, she grabbed the gun from his hands and pulled the trigger. And at that moment, she told the dispatcher that the gun had been placed back on the bookshelf after she had shot him. And as she was talking on the phone, she was standing only 10 feet away from his dead body. So Shayna explained that while she had been at Ryan's condo, he got physical with her, and he lifted her up, carried her out of his house, despite the fact that she's trying to tell him, I have to go back inside to get my things before I can actually go. So she's telling the dispatcher that he threw her across the room, and since she was so startled, she killed him. So as the call progressed, more and more information began to filter out, and this included the fact that she went on to say that she shot him a couple more times because he was twisting and making funny noises. So she wanted to make sure that he was dead because she knew he was going to die anyway.
Well, you always see those movies. It's like, why didn't you shoot him a couple more times? You know, like they come back from the dead. They're like, oh, I think they're dead. And it's like, well, this one. But she definitely took care of business, it sounds like.
And then because he was twitching and I knew he was going to die anyway, and he was making funny noises, I shot him a couple more times just to kill him because I knew he would have been.
I'm sorry, you said you shot him a couple more times after that?
Yeah.
How many times did you shoot him total?
I don't know.
Okay, because he was twitching and you knew he was going to die, so you shot him again?
Enough to make sure he was dead because he was twitching so bad and I didn't want to watch him lay there and twitch.
So you shot him instead of calling 911?
Do what? Yeah, I did because I knew he was going to die anyway.
Okay.
It was pretty bad. He was like, he just was twitching. I mean, he was pretty much dead, and I shot him just so he stopped twitching.
So Ryan was raised in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, amongst a loving family with 3 younger half-sisters. He also had 2 male figures in his life. This was his biological father, Jay Poston, as well as his stepfather, Peter Carter. And in a gesture of love and loyalty, Ryan went on to change his middle name to Carter in a way to honor his stepdad. So despite the fact that his parents were divorced and his mom had remarried, they truly all co-parented so well together. It was a modern family and it worked and everyone was happy. So Ryan had always been an incredibly driven young man, and during high school, he studied internationally. He was in both the Philippines as well as Switzerland. And then as he moved on to Indiana University, he carried a triple major in geography, history, and political science.
A pretty accomplished individual.
Absolutely. And he was just always known as someone who truly enjoyed debating. And from a young age, Ryan showed a strong interest in law and legal cases, and it really only made sense that he would go on to become an attorney. So when he was finished with law school, Ryan quickly decided that he was wanting to immerse himself in the Cincinnati area in terms of law, and he did not want to work within a law firm and work, just unbelievably crazy hours to become a partner in a huge firm.
You always hear that, how it just like it pretty much takes over your life.
You live and breathe work and it becomes everything. So he decided rather than doing that, he wanted to open his own law practice and be his own boss. So according to his dad, he did live and breathe work, but of course he's working for his own greater good rather than the good of a firm. So he was often known to take phone calls from clients well beyond what was considered to be normal business hours. He also demonstrated his commitment to justice by his willingness to take on pro bono cases for those that were unable to afford his representation, which is really nice. So despite the fact that Ryan had developed a reputation for being fierce inside the courtroom and in his career, there was no denying that. Those who were close to him, though, recognized that his personal life was a lot more conflicting, and he did often skirt away from confrontation when it came to his personal life.
Interesting. I mean, it's like one of those things, like always the people that have a lot of, mental things going on, they turn into psychologists, or people that are, obsessed with food, dietitians, and so on.
So in the months leading up to his death, Ryan's personal life, it was in stark contrast to his professional life, which was truly flourishing at that point. So he was in the process of cutting ties from his problematic and toxic relationship with Shayna Hubers. So on top of this, he was also dealing with a lawsuit from a former business partner, which was only adding to a layer of stress in his personal life outside of work. So as October of 2012 rolled around, tensions were mounting within his relationship between himself and Shayna. So on the evening of Thursday, October 11th, 2012, this is one day before Shayna dialed 911 to report the fact that she had shot her boyfriend dead. So the couple spent the evening together. They were watching a political debate with his mom and at their house, I should say, his mom and stepdad's house. And then she came back and spent the night at his Highland Heights condo. So it was clear, though, that the night was not without issues, as Shayna called her mom at 3 o'clock in the morning, telling her that she was suffering from chest pains after she and Ryan had gotten into an argument. So I don't know if you can think of any kind of friends you've had in the past or currently have where you think about a relationship that they're in and it's nothing but drama and toxicity. And standing on the outside looking in, you just think like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's like there's better ways to live life than going through this turmoil every single day. Like I don't know if you're seeking it out, and if you are, you're there. But if you truly want to get away from that, this isn't good.
I always tell our kids, go for somebody that brings out the best in you, not the worst in you, because life can be challenging enough. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
And you and I met when we were 16, and I refuse to ever be in a toxic relationship. I just don't like drama and turmoil in my life.
Usually people that say that are the most dramatic, so you know.
I'm not very dramatic. I'm really not.
Okay.
So meanwhile, Ryan woke up to find Shayna and her mom sitting on the couch in his living room. So he's going to bed on a Thursday night, waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, what the hell is going on here? So as Friday progressed, of course, Ryan went to work. His phone was basically lit up with a constant stream of text messages from Shayna, and you will come to find that this is not unusual. So she is going on and on and on about the fact that he had not accompanied her to her doctor's appointment. And mind you, this was not a planned appointment. She's calling the doctor in regards to these chest pains she allegedly suffered from after their fight. So she went on to explain that the doctor had to prescribe her medication for high blood pressure. Yet, as you'll come to find with the investigation after Ryan's death, there was no doctor. There was no high blood pressure medication. This was all a lie.
So this chick's all about drama and trying to get attention.
Right. So this was just her way of manipulating control over Ryan's attention. So on what became the last day of his life, Ryan's colleagues noted that he was in very good spirits. He was uplifted that day because he was actually gearing up to go on a date with none other than Miss Ohio 2012 that evening.
Well, Ryan got himself a pretty girl. Not that I have no idea what Shayna looks like.
She's very pretty.
I was going to say, she's, there's got to be a reason he's staying with her, and it's probably not the overbearing and controlling part of her, I would guess.
So they had plans. He and Miss Ohio 2012. That night they were planning on meeting up. They were just going to play pool and have some drinks together.
So Shayna, he's actively dating Shayna at the same time?
Yeah, but
Okay.
you'll see that there's a lot of highs and there's a lot of lows, as you can probably guess based on what I've told you so far.
Sure.
So his colleagues had been really concerned with Ryan and the relationship that he was in with Shayna and truly his safety. And what they had been doing was just urging him to change the locks in his condo because as they know him, they know she drops by and lets herself in unannounced. So they're like, man, you have got to do something about this. You have got to change your lock so that she can't just get inside your home.
Well, I don't know if you girls talk the same, but us guys were like, man, this chick's crazy. Like, she's fit for a straitjacket. You like, something's going to happen. And I could totally see where he's coming from.
Right. And they're specifically talking about it too on this day because he's going on a date with someone else. So they were worried. But he insisted that Shayna had no idea that he was going on a date that night.
And the friends are like, dude, I have no doubt that she tracks your every whereabout where you are. Like, for your safety, please change your locks.
So he's just assuring everyone at work, everything's fine. She doesn't even know I've got this date planned. So sadly, though, as he left the office that day, it was the last time that they ever saw him alive, which is really sad.
Yeah.
So being 8 years his junior, Shayna was a graduate student. So she's in school, obviously he's building his career. They're in two different spaces in life, 29 versus 21. That's kind of a big deal. So she's in graduate school at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, Kentucky. So this is about 85 miles or 137 kilometers from where Ryan was living in Highland Heights. And I looked it up. I mean, it's a bit of a drive. So it seems like she was making this drive quite often to get to his condo. So it was racy photos that had been posted to her Facebook account that initially caught Ryan's eye. I mean, she's a very pretty girl. So they began dating in the spring of 2011. So somewhere around a year and a half to where this story starts and takes place. So at this point in time, he was a 28-year-old practicing lawyer and she was only 19 years old. She was a 19-year-old college student.
That's a big difference.
And
I mean,
like
that's
I
like fresh out
said,
of high school.
Yeah. And you might say, well, it's not that big of a difference. But at that point in time, it actually is.
It's a huge difference. Like
Right.
10 years, like between high school and like a accomplished lawyer, like that in lifetime, like that's crazy.
It's kind of like if you say you're 30 years old and your husband's 50. Fine, big deal.
Yeah.
But then when you're 50 and he's 70 or you're 60 and he's 80, that's when you feel the difference. It's kind of the same thing.
Or if he's 20 and you're 0, that's a huge
that
difference.
is a huge difference, Mike. Thank you, though, for that.
Yeah.
So according to her friends, there was no denying that she was very highly intelligent. She was always enrolled in AP classes. But when it came to boys, those that knew her saw that she truly had a flair for drama. So if a boy was not interested in her, or if he ended the relationship, there was sure to be plenty of screaming, crying, drama through the roof. And I know you're suggesting that I am a dramatic person. I am not a dramatic person.
That's what every person that is dramatic says.
You
I'm
keep
just
on
telling
saying
you.
that,
I'm
but
not saying
you
you're
have
dramatic.
to admit that I am not dramatic.
No, you're good. I like you a lot.
Thank you, Mike. So Ryan's friend, this is Allie Wagner, she saw red flags from the get-go. From the moment that she first met Shayna, she had that red flag up and waving. So it was clear to see from the beginning of meeting the couple together that it was not healthy and that Shayna seemed to be a little obsessed, and it was very obvious.
We all have these friends or people we've met where it's just like, man, these two are bad. Like there's
Oil and
toxic.
water.
It's like toxicity, like the way they go at each other. It's just kind of like, yeah, this isn't going to work.
Right. So it was apparent that Ryan and Shayna, they were not on the same page for what they wanted out of the relationship. Ryan is focused on building a career. He's a lawyer, he's 29 years old, and he wants to be on the rise and successful. And it was clear that Shayna wanted something far more serious, so they weren't on the same page, and this caused a lot of friction and a lot of turmoil. So Ryan had made several unsuccessful attempts in trying to end the relationship. It was clear he wasn't being firm enough, he wasn't being clear enough. In a text to a friend, Shayna wrote, "He says he's only with me because I make him feel so awful about it when I cry. So you can paint a picture of the fact that he's trying to break up with her. There's a lot of tears, a lot of guilt, a lot of crying, and then there's relenting and allowing it to continue.
Well, and also Shayna's piece, like, do you really want to be with someone that's like, I'm only with you because I feel bad for you?
Right.
Like, that is like low self-esteem.
Very
Like,
much so.
That's so sad.
Right. And that's what I tell our kids too. We're like always teaching lessons with our kids. Like, you want to be with somebody that wants to be with you. Know your value. Like, you're an amazing person. Know that, own that. And if someone doesn't see it, that's their fault and that's their loss. And, just move on. There's other people out there.
Yeah.
So with this, the couple went on a tumultuous 18-month on again, off again roller coaster. When Shayna was in town, she would drop by Ryan's condo unannounced, her possessiveness only growing as time continued to tick on. And I'm sure the physical part of the relationship was probably fabulous.
Yep.
And that's what kept things going. I don't know that to be true, but that's something that I can presume.
Well, because there's absolutely nothing else keeping them together.
Right. So in a text to his cousin, Ryan wrote, "This is getting to be restraining order level crazy. She's shown up at my condo like 3 times and refuses to leave." He also took his frustrations to Facebook when he wrote, "Literally, probably the craziest effing person I have ever met.
Wow.
She almost scares me." So there are red flags all over the place before the time comes when Ryan sadly loses his life, although no one ever expected that it was going to end like this. So those that worked alongside Ryan saw just firsthand, because they spent the day, 5 days a week with this guy, they saw firsthand just how possessive, obsessive, and unrelenting Shayna was. So if she was unable to reach him on his cell phone, she would immediately start calling the receptionist and ask to be put through to his work phone. So she would show up at the office unannounced. She would text him upwards of 100 times a day, wear him down to the point that he would just give in order to just keep things smooth.
It's like so suffocating. And like, he's gone out of his way to be like, this isn't going to work. And she's like, please, I'll make it work. And then he's like, okay, I don't want you to like murder me. So I guess I'll let you.
Right. And I don't know how people can text that much throughout the day. I was at work yesterday and I was fielding a bunch of text messages from various people, and I'm trying to type my assessments, and I'm thinking to myself, like, how does somebody do that all day?
Yeah.
I'm a very focused person, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but when I focus in on something, I'll oftentimes just put thing on do not disturb so that my attention isn't taken away.
It's better.
So I can't imagine, because she was a very successful student, how she had the time to text him so unrelenting.
I don't know.
I just don't get it. So again, she's wearing him down. He's giving in. But from his friends and family's perspective, they saw Shayna as a stalker. But they never, like I said, fathomed that it would end in murder. They just didn't ever think it could ever escalate to that
Nobody
point.
does. Like, you always think those are stories, but it's like, so that's why we tell these, because, you never know.
So unfortunately, as you can kind of tell from the picture I'm painting, that Ryan struggled to maintain his boundaries. So he would just continue to break down and take Shayna back. So on and on and on, the roller coaster continued. So according to Ryan's neighbor, this is Nikki Carnes, Shayna often told her that Ryan was emotionally abusive toward her, telling her that she would need a boob job, she needed to lose weight because she's fat. I hope that isn't the case, because, that's obviously something that's cruel. Nikki said she felt that because Shayna was so young and naive that she just stuck around and often kind of served as like his errand girl and tiptoed around, tap danced in order to keep him around. That's Nikki's perspective of what was going on. So because Ryan had a date planned for that Friday night, he had told Shayna in advance, and that may have been where that fight came from, that she called her mom at 3:00 in the morning saying she was having chest pains. He's like, look, I am busy this weekend. Please do not come by unannounced. So as they're heading into the weekend of October 12th, 2012, Ryan is telling Shayna, we will not be seeing each other this weekend. Okay? You understand? Okay?
I mean, in her eyes, that's like, oh, he's going to be up to something. I'm definitely going to check out what he's up to.
Right. So he was clear to everyone that knew him that he had not told her that he was going on a date with anyone, let alone Audrey Bolt, who is Miss Ohio USA 2012. This is someone that, just like how he met Shayna on Facebook, he also met her on Facebook. So that Friday night, Ryan planned to meet Audrey at a bar. Like I said, they were just going to keep it casual. They were going to have drinks and play some pool, get to know each other, chat, etc. So he comes home from work, and as he's gearing up to get ready to go out the door for his date, who shows up at his doorstep? Of course, Shayna.
Yep.
So this is unexpected because, of course, he established previously we're not going to be seeing each other this weekend.
Is it really unexpected though? Like,
No.
I mean, everybody listening to this, all his friends, like, what? You almost wonder if he liked some of the game too, you know, like to kind of shove it in her face a little bit.
Possibly.
You know, it's like, and like some of these stories too, like, I don't know, you know, we got to take them for what they are. Maybe they're true. Like maybe he was really crappy to her. Maybe like instead of just being a man and stepping up and being like, man, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're done with it.
Right.
Like he couldn't just do that because a lot of men will do that and just kind of take the wussy way out and be like, I'm
Right.
just going to cheat on her. And then eventually she'll leave me. It's like, you know, and not saying he did or didn't. We have no idea.
And that's just the point of this, is that we never know what truly goes on behind closed doors. There's two sides to every story. Each person's side is very different sometimes. The truth oftentimes lies in the middle. So I'm certainly not saying that, oh no, Shayna was the complete, you know, problem in this entire thing. Obviously, she killed this man. I am saying, was there two sides to it? Probably, yes. So sadly, of course, we know Ryan's coming home from work and getting ready for this date. He never made it to that date. So as Shayna dialed 911, and of course, from here on out, it is her story alone because Ryan is dead. And that sucks. So she's dialing 911 and she told the dispatcher that she had shot him about 10 to 15 minutes earlier. And obviously that's going to come up as a question. If you shoot someone, why didn't you call immediately? So as investigators and police are arriving to the condo, Shayna was instructed to get down on the ground because we know that she killed someone with a gun. Is she still armed? Is she a threat to the officers? So now they're entering Ryan's condo and they found him lying on the floor in the dining room right behind the dining room table. So as Shayna is, of course, taken down to the police station so that they can understand what the hell happened, there was no question that she was the one that was responsible for shooting Ryan. But had she actually done so in self-defense, or was this murder? So immediately, investigators found her behavior to be exceptionally bizarre. And you'll have to look up her mugshot. This is a girl that is super, super intelligent. She's taking her master's classes. She's in all AP classes. And you look at her mugshot and it almost looks like she doesn't know where she is, and that really she needs to be admitted to like a psych facility, I would say. So as a detective began to move toward the door to step out of the room where she was being interrogated, or not even interrogated, where she was being questioned, he noticed that she would start to make these crying, wailing noises. But as soon as he left the room and closed the door, it would suddenly cease. So this gave the impression that she was trying to put on a show, and one might think, is she trying to establish a insanity defense?
This one?
So
I'm
the
looking
one
at the
that I'm talking about for
This
her
one.
mugshot is that one.
Oh, wow. So her hair's all over the place. I already showed it on YouTube, but it's just like, man, that's, yeah, like she's looking off in the distance to the side and just like, where am I? Like, yeah, that's almost going on in her head. Like, it just, wow, like shell shocked.
Right.
Like, just, oh, wow.
So it's questioning, is she truly suffering a mental breakdown, or is she just trying to say, I didn't know what I was doing at the time? So despite the fact that she requested a lawyer, obviously when you request a lawyer, you have the right to remain silent. Well, she did not remain silent.
Good.
She continued to talk and ramble.
And then if I'm police, it's like, well, we're going to wait a little bit longer till your attorney gets here because you don't need it yet.
Right. So she is going on and on and on about everything, about the fact that she was raised Christian and murder was a sin. And she wondered, will I be able to shower in jail? Just on and on and on, to the point that detectives started to tag each other in and out of sitting with her in the interview room because it was so much.
Wow.
Yes. So, she's just continuing to talk on for nearly 3 hours. And she was telling anyone who was willing to listen that she had been dealing with abuse at the hands of Ryan. And she continued on with the flow of words that ended up coming back to bite her in the butt and haunt her. So as Shayna continued to blather on, her story continuously changed, which started with how Ryan ended up, dead on the floor, how the gun had ended up in her hands to begin with. It's all changing as she's talking on and on. So according to Shayna, he was screaming at her, calling her names such as a hillbilly. And she said that he told her that he hated her. So Ryan was a licensed gun owner. He did have guns, and he had the habit of placing his handgun on the dining room table as he came back home from work. That was just what he was known to do. He lives by himself in a condo. He doesn't have children, so he would just do that. So according to Shayna, she grabbed the gun while Ryan was screaming at her. And this is something that was in contrast to what she told the dispatcher on the 911 call, that she pulled the gun from his hand and pulled the trigger. So after she fired, she told officers that Ryan was laying with his face down on the dining room table and he was twitching. And because she knew he was going to die, she walked around the table and shot him in the head, maybe 6 times.
Jeez.
He fell to the ground, and at this point, his glasses were still on, and he continued to twitch. So she fired more shots just to make sure that he was dead. And she went on to say, "Because I didn't want to watch him die." Shayna elaborated that she didn't want to see him suffering, which is why, and the words she used were, she finished him off. So rather than immediately dialing 911 to get help, Shayna continued to shoot, and she waited at least 10 minutes to call 911. So she went on to say that Ryan was very vain and she knew that he was going to die. And since he always wanted to get a nose job, she shot him right there.
Wow.
And she gave him the nose job that he wanted, is what she told the officers in the interview room after she requested a lawyer.
Phew, man, this chick's fit for a straitjacket.
That I couldn't stand to watch him twitch. I knew he was going to die or have a completely deformed face. He's very vain. One of our last conversations we had that was good was that he wants my best friend who's a dentist to do his veneers and wants to get a nose job. Just that kind of person. And I shot him right here. I gave him his nose job he wanted.
So throughout the interview, the bizarre behavior continued as Shayna sang and she hummed Amazing Grace. At this point in time, she was alone in the room. One female officer did come in and put a beverage on the table, but she's basically dancing and twirling from one part of the room to the next as she's humming and singing Amazing Grace. She's doing these toe point dance moves, which you'll insert into YouTube. And then what was really chilling was during this whole spinning and dancing, she goes, "I did it. Yes, I did it. I can't believe I did that." And this, of course, is all being recorded.
Like she's like a child. Like she's going back to childhood stuff.
Very, very childish.
How sweet the sound that sings a rest. I did. Yes, I did. I cannot believe I did that.
So the fact that Ryan had been shot 6 times suggested that rather than shooting him in self-defense, because obviously this is overkill, that she shot him out of rage. And those that knew and loved Ryan believe that she came to his condo that night, despite the fact that he said he was not available this weekend, in order to try to convince him not to break up with her. So it's likely at this point in time, he's got this date, he's going out the door to meet Miss Ohio 2012, and he's like, "Look, we're done. We are so done." And maybe believing that this is over, in a fit of rage, she grabbed the gun and started to shoot him, is what's being theorized.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If it was me, I'd be like, I don't know how else to tell you that this will never work. It never worked. It never will work. And you're done with my life. I'm actually going on a date right now. That's how done with you I am.
And maybe he did say that.
Yeah, maybe. And that's totally fine because he is done. But it's not okay to kill somebody over
right.
that.
And you will come to find that Shayna initially denied knowing anything about the date, but then she would slip up and say that she did. So as investigators searched through Shayna and Ryan's phones, they saw an astonishing amount of texts and emails and phone calls, unlike anything they had ever seen before.
Well, imagine being the detective that has to go over this and being like, "Oh my gosh, you said 100 a day." So it's you're looking over the last couple months. You're like, "Oh, this is where AI could really help." It's just put it all in there and be like, "All right, show me some of the most interesting ones or something that are most aggressive or whatever."
Right.
There's I can't even imagine.
So most obviously were from Shayna. What the detective basically said was for each message that he sent, she sent about 50.
And being like most men, it's probably like he's sending 1-word answers or 2-word answers, like, yeah, no, yeah. And she's like, blah, 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 and like, bing, 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 like big paragraphs. It's just like, everybody knows somebody like that where they just send all these huge things. It's like, ugh.
Put it in one concise text rather than 50 little blurbs. Yeah. That's how I am.
You're older. That's okay. Yeah, so any of the young kids out there, I'm sorry, Allison's a little older. It's she doesn't like that.
I'm not sorry.
You should.
So in February of 2012, this is 8 months before Ryan's death, he wrote, "You can tell people you broke up with me." He's pleading with her.
Anything, like whatever it takes, tell him whatever you need.
So he texts her another one, Shayna, and then in all caps, "Stop texting me." And then in April, he wrote, "I no longer," and by the way, this is all in caps, "I no longer have the patience to deal with you." So many were just wondering why Ryan didn't just pull the plug on this, stop responding, block her number, get the locks changed, even get a restraining order. So in his defense, it was said that Kentucky law basically requires the two to have been living together or to have been married in order to get a restraining order. So I did my own research on that just to see, because I don't know squat about restraining orders. So Kentucky has 2 main types of protective orders. There's a domestic violence order, or a DVO, and then there's an interpersonal protective order, IPO. So he wouldn't have been able to obtain a DVO because that's for those that are having issues with a spouse, a former spouse, or an unmarried couple that share a child together, and they don't qualify for that, as well as living together. They also did not live together. However, he would have been able to obtain an IPO, which applies to a dating relationship without the requirement of living together. So Ryan decided that he just wanted to handle this all on his own and probably hoped that he could just give her the hint and she would just kind of go away. But that clearly didn't happen. So in April, he texted his cousin. "She came to my place on Sunday morning and I literally had to pick her up and throw her into the hall." So she was saying that that's what happened on the night she shot him. I'm questioning that happened that night and she may have been just using that because it had happened in the past.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're gonna like physically pick somebody up, I mean, maybe she wasn't leaving, and it's like you have the right to kind of like do that. It's like, get out of my house, like, I'm not not throw somebody, but just be like, move them,
Right. I mean, really, the proper thing should have been to call the police and let them handle it, and then it gets documented that this person is a problem.
Yeah.
I know that this is a lot trickier than what I know.
Well, here's my thought process. Like, I don't want to have to deal with cops being here for like 2 hours and questioning me and making me look like I'm like beating her. Like, just like, please get out of my apartment. I'm going to close this and you're done. I'm done with you now. I'm locking the door. Now you can't get in. Now we're done. All right. See you later.
And then you're living in a condo and then your neighbors see police at your door and you're like, oh man, I don't want to deal with this.
And you're a lawyer and that doesn't look good. It just
looks bad. So, however, by summer, the relationship was back on again, and then only to spiral downhill yet again by late August. So here we are on the roller coaster. So Ryan texted Shayna that he planned on turning off his phone and padlocking his door, though she texted another 100 plus messages as he responded, "I am not reading any of these. Stop."
I totally see that. Like, I know where his headspace is. It's just like, man, I don't know like what it's going to take.
So despite his request, she came back to his condo, and because she refused to leave, he left his home that day. So this all happened, previously, that she's just texting him. He's like, "I'm not responding to you." He comes home, there she is. So he now is leaving his own home to go and stay at his dad's house just to get away from her. So while the prosecution painted a picture of an obsessed woman, the defense claimed that Shayna had simply acted in self-defense on the night that Ryan lost his life. So they claim that he had been fueled with anger when referring to Facebook messages that Ryan had sent his friends about this whole thing that he had a falling out with his business partner. So on August 16th, 2012, this is less than 2 months before Ryan's death, he wrote, "And I want to rig explosives to everything I see," because he was frustrated about this whole situation with his partner, or ex-partner, I should say. So none of these messages that he was, venting about had anything to do with Shayna. He was voicing rage towards this other situation.
Well, he's mentally done with Shayna.
Right. So Ryan's condo showed no signs of a struggle or any hint that any kind of violent interaction had taken place. other than his crumpled, lifeless body that lay on the floor of the dining room. So photos of Shayna that were taken after her arrest did show some light bruising, but no evidence of a life or death struggle that required a person dying. So I will tell you that, people were shocked that were friends with Shayna when they went online and saw her mugshot. They were looking at that photo being like, I don't even identify with knowing this person. So, it just kind of painted a picture of there was a lot more going on here. Mm-hmm. So Shayna remained behind bars during the 2 years that passed while evidence was being gathered and prepared for trial. And there was no question, like I said, that she was a highly intelligent girl. She had graduated magna cum laude only 3 years, I should say, at the University of Kentucky. So, I mean, that's impressive. Yeah. She got all of her classes done in 3 years, and then she went on to pursue her master's degree. She wanted to become a school guidance counselor. So no one could understand why she hadn't just walked away from Ryan's condo that night and why it ended in her grabbing this gun and shooting him dead 6 times. So Shayna's mom, this is Sharon Hubers, she testified about the 24 hours that were leading up to Ryan's death. And she spoke about how Ryan brought Shayna over to watch the vice presidential debates at his mom and stepdad's house. And then Shayna had gone back to his condo and spent the night. So Ryan had already told her that he did not want to see her that upcoming weekend. And this, like I had said, may have been the reason why she got upset to the point that she calls her mom at 3 a.m. She's distraught and complaining of chest pains. So by 5:30 in the morning, this is when Ryan's coming out into his living room to go to work, and he sees Shayna and her mom sitting there. It's like, what is going on?
Can I get away, please?
So, this paints the picture that in the middle of the night, Sharon made the drive that would have taken a good, I think, hour and a half from Lexington to his condo. So, I mean, that's like, he's like, what is going on? So Sharon fought to have her daughter released to her custody while she was awaiting trial. But because she was considered a flight risk based on something she said during a police interview, this was denied. So during a police interview, she mentioned having the desire to get her keys, get into her car, and leave because she knew that it was her word against a dead man's. So the judge made the decision to set her bail at $1.5 million, which was a number that her family couldn't afford. So she stayed behind bars until the trial could take place. So according to Shayna, Ryan was obsessed with guns, and he always left them lying around his condo. And she said that this was something that from the moment they started dating, from the first time she went over to his condo, it made her feel uneasy and maybe unsafe. So she claimed that he would occasionally grab his gun and shoot a book on the bookcase of his condo, while friends insist not a chance. He was a very responsible gun owner.
Like that's so unsafe. Like anybody that loves guns, like not anybody, but most people love, like, that's not a good, especially in a condo. Like there's people everywhere. It could go through a wall. Like, I don't know.
I will tell you though, the prosecutor, this is Michelle Snodgrass, she did admit that she saw a book in Ryan's condo that had some bullet holes in it. So, we don't know, like, did he take those out to a shooting range and shoot at the book? And then she's putting that into that perspective. Who knows?
Smart.
It's 2 stories.
Yeah.
One side is saying one thing and the other saying the other, but Ryan's not there to say what happened. So during her police interview, Shayna indicated that she used a big handgun that she picked up off the table, and she had to release the safety before she could fire. So the gun used to kill Ryan was a Sig Sauer P238 .380 caliber semi-automatic handgun. So she picked it up, she released the safety, she pointed the gun at Ryan, and she shot him in the right side of his head. And the fact that she released the safety, she had to take the time to do that, said that this could have been premeditated. And this is according to the chief of police. So Ryan's blood was found on the gun, which indicated that Shayna had likely moved closer to him for the final kill shots, because obviously she was close enough to him that the blood was able to get onto the gun. So after the first shot, he would have been off his feet while Shayna insisted that he was moving toward her. Downstairs neighbors recall hearing gunshots that night. They heard no signs or sounds of fighting. They didn't hear any kind of struggle or yelling or anything like that. So had they been physically struggling, had Shayna been thrown across the floor as she claimed, The neighbor said, we would have heard that. We believe we would have heard that. So 2.5 years after Ryan's death, the trial was set to begin in April of 2015. So during her police interview, she mentioned shooting Ryan in the middle of him doing something. She said that he was raising his arm or saying something crazy. So once again, this conflicted with her claim of self-defense during a heated confrontation. She also admitted, I think in the midst of that, my love turned to hate. So again, it's her just talking on and on that truly came back to bite her.
Kind of screwing herself.
She did. So in the fall of 2012, Shayna and Ryan went to a shooting range together, and right after, she texted her friend. She wrote, Ryan doesn't love or care. He's an evil person. So then she called her friend and told her that while they were at the shooting range, she wanted to turn around, shoot and kill him, and pretend that it had been an accident.
Uh-oh. That's the
So-
dagger. This is it. I was
Yeah.
wondering, guilty, not guilty. I've made a decision.
So Ryan's neighbor, Nikki Carnes, she described his relationship with Shayna as toxic. She would often wake up to sounds of screaming and shouting outside. She testified that Shayna would be in tears. She would have red markings on her arms. And Shayna would tell her that Ryan slammed her arm in the door and threw her to the floor in the hallway. However, I will tell you that jailhouse informants say that according to Shayna, she told them that she would cause these injuries to herself and claim that it had been Ryan that did this. So a psychologist for the defense who evaluated Shayna diagnosed her with narcissism and low self-esteem, someone who had immense difficulty tolerating rejection.
Yeah, and like she was trying to make the guards feel bad for her by being like, I did it to myself, or what do you know? I trying to get them on her side almost. Like she needed their approval or whatever. Like it was just weird. Like somebody that's so smart in books and school would say something so stupid to incriminate themselves.
Yeah, but sometimes you think when you're having a conversation with someone in a jail cell that it's trusted. You know, people do that all the
If
time.
you're an idiot, like,
Yeah.
but clearly she was okay at school, but not good in life.
So the state believes that after Ryan left work and headed back to his condo, Shayna confronted him there because he told her that he didn't want to see her that weekend. There was no evidence to suggest that an argument like she had described had taken place because she claimed that he threw her against a bookshelf that was in his condo, yet none of the things that were on the bookshelf were disturbed or overturned or anything like that. So the other thing was she claimed that at some point during their fight, he locked himself in his bedroom, which would have given her ample time to safely exit that condo had she felt fearful of her life. Now, there was reference to a Google search that Shayna had made about how to unlock a house door with a bobby pin.
Oh my God.
So he can't even lock himself in his damn bedroom because she's going to weasel her way in there.
She won't
And
do it
she
with a bobby
did.
pin, but yeah.
Right. So she did. She got into his bedroom and then the fight moved back out to the dining room. And according to Shayna, he was yelling at her, saying hurtful things, hateful things, partially standing by the table when she shot him, and he began twitching. Despite the fact that she described him as nearly dead after the first shot, she went on to shoot him 5 more times. So forensic expert Howard Ryan testified that the first shot was to Ryan's head, and the blood spatter on the table proved that he had been sitting down when he was shot and never stood up after the first shot, which proved that he had not been aggressing and moving toward her, as she claimed. She shot him in the forehead and his head went down onto the table, which exposed the upper portion of the right side of his back, which he believes was the second shot. At this point, his right arm was dangling down and the third shot hit him under his arm. At this point, Ryan began to fall out of the chair to the floor where she fired a remaining 3 shots. So the prosecution called for these 3 jailhouse informants that she was chatting with, because they decided, what they indicated was that they decided to come forward because she showed 0 remorse for what she had done. She indicated that she had been the aggressor that night, that she planned to plead insanity, but then she said she remembered that she had the IQ of Einstein. So rather than doing that, she said she was going to use the victim role instead. She also indicated that she was aware that Ryan had a date with Miss Ohio USA that night, something that she denied knowing previously. So you could think that, she initially said she was going to plead insanity and realized that she was too intelligent to do so. there was about 10 to 15 minutes between the point that she shot him dead and called 911. So maybe in that time is when she started thinking about what she was going to say to the dispatcher. So Sharon Hubers, this is Shayna's mom, took the stand and testified that she was uneasy about Ryan from the get-go after she saw how many guns he had there as well, just like his mom or her daughter did. She felt uneasy too. So all these guns were within arm's length reach. There was discussion of the 18 hours before Ryan's death when Shayna called her mom complaining of these chest pains. And rather than going to the doctor as Shayna had texted Ryan, her and her mom just went out shopping. So regardless, this is Friday. She's incessantly texting Ryan about the fact, how dare you not come with me to the doctor? You don't care about me. I had to be put on blood pressure medication. We know that this is all a lie. So the jury also learned that rather than immediately dialing 911 after shooting Ryan dead, her first call was not to 911, it was to her mom. So in this time frame, did they talk about what she was going to say in her defense?
Yeah.
I would imagine the phone call started with, "Oh my God, Mom, I shot him. He's dead." Okay.
What should I do?
What exactly? And I'm not saying that happened because I wasn't part of the conversation, but
Allegedly.
you could only imagine.
Just spitballing.
So meanwhile, of course, we know that the defense was painting a picture of a man who had reached his boiling point due to not only issues within their relationship, but also these legal issues he was having with his ex-partner. So there was also reference to medication that he had been prescribed in the 8 months that, were before his death. This included Adderall and Xanax. So with this, a toxicologist took the stand and discussed that the combined effects of these two drugs could cause hostile outbursts. So on April 23rd, 2015, the jury broke for deliberation at 6:30 p.m. They were back with a verdict about 5 hours later, just before 11:30 p.m. So, Mike, what do you think they found her?
What was the charge? Did they say what the charge was?
It was for murder.
Okay.
I believe first-degree murder, if I'm not mistaken.
First degree, so premeditated.
believe.
So if it's first degree, premeditated, do you want to go
They
there?
didn't say specifically if it was first or second degree
Okay.
that she was being charged for.
I'm just going to go with guilty.
Okay, so yes, they found 24-year-old Shayna Hubers guilty of murder. So the following day, the jury came back and recommended that she be sentenced to 40 years in prison. So 3 months later, Shayna was back in court for a hearing where she tried to prove that she was the victim of domestic violence in order to receive a shorter sentence. So despite the fact that she initially told police that she lived 80 miles away in Lexington, she's now saying and trying to convince the judge that she was Ryan's live-in girlfriend. So the prosecution confronted her with evidence that throughout 2012 itself, she slept with 10 different guys. And, she didn't live in Ryan's condo.
Yeah,
So
nothing wrong with that, but
no,
don't be lying to us.
don't lie. So the judge ultimately determined that they had not been domestic partners and went on to uphold the jury's recommendation for a sentence of 40 years. So when Ryan's father, this is Jay Poston, spoke with a reporter after the sentencing, he said, "Rot in hell. She is going where she deserves to be and where her mommy can't help her."
Wow.
And you could tell the relationship with her mom was one where it's like,
Mommy always gets her out of trouble.
Yeah, not good. So no one could have ever expected that 1 year later, Shayna was granted a new trial after her lawyer discovered that a member of the jury had been a felon.
Oh.
And according to Kentucky law, he should have been barred from his service. So it was, an oversight.
Yeah.
So the second trial now began on August 14th, 2018. This is nearly 6 years after Ryan's death. So by this time, Shayna was 27 years old and she was married during a jailhouse ceremony in June where she tied the knot with a convicted drug trafficker. This is Richard McBee. I will tell you that at times McBee identifies as a transgender woman named Unique Taylor.
All right.
So the defense maintained that Shayna was a battered woman who acted in self-defense, while prosecutors relied on her damning statements that were made during her police interview. And I will go on to say these were statements that came after she told investigators that she wanted a lawyer, but continued to talk. So it was during the second trial when she testified, now this is a whole new idea, that Ryan had been sexually abusive towards her, something that she had never mentioned during the first trial.
I mean, you can just like, if you're the prosecutors, you just throw that, you say, listen, she didn't even talk about this last time. She's clearly trying to come up with a different idea because it didn't work last time. So if you got to be able to see that clearly.
Right. So she's maintaining that he was physically violent, but on top of that, sexually violent as well. A defense psychologist indicated that she had not left Ryan because she suffered from PTSD and personality disorder from childhood sexual abuse. I will tell you, there are no reports to suggest that this claim is accurate. Is it possible that she never came forward and this did happen? Yes, it is, but it never came out during the first trial.
Right.
So her recollection of events that led Ryan to being shot dead were yet again different from her 911 call. So I always say, if you tell the truth, your story stays the same no matter how many times you tell it. You can tell it 1,000 times. It's the same if you tell the truth. But if you're making it up, it's going to change.
Yeah.
So after the jury deliberated for, again, 5 hours, just like they did in the first trial, what do you think?
Guilty again. It's the same thing.
Yes. But on top of it, this time she was given a life sentence.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. How'd that work out, Shayna, you dumbass?
Yeah. It's kind of ironic that the second trial came and she was hoping to be found innocent, but instead she got an even harsher sentence.
I guess that's the risk, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Shayna. Hope you're happy for yourself.
So according to court records, Shayna filed for divorce from Unique Taylor on January 14th, 2019, stating the marriage was irretrievably broken. I mean, you're married in jail.
Who cares? It's just like, I don't even care.
It was broken to start with. You're in jail.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great foundation.
So she is serving her life sentence at the Kentucky Correctional Institute for Women. Meanwhile, Ryan's father, Jay, reflects on the sadness that they will never get to see what the possibilities were of his son's life, what he would have done with himself, and, what he would have accomplished on this earth. And for those who knew and love Ryan, they will always remember him as the type of person that you just wanted in your life. Not only a friend, but a loving son and a protective older brother. And that is the story of the murder of Ryan Poston.
That really sucks. It's just like unfair. If you're Ryan's friend or family member, it's just like, man, I loved him so much. He was such a great dude. And like, maybe he wasn't perfect or whatever. Nobody's perfect, but it's just like.
No one is perfect for sure.
Yeah. And you see like clear signs that Shayna's just out of her mind, like batshit crazy, and just like, fit first. And I imagine you go visit her in jail and it's like, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. And she's just like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Like, couldn't you just see that? Like, is that how you picture her?
I would imagine that's how she was in her day-to-day life, that you'd have a conversation and be like, okay, so I'm not going to be talking to that girl.
Psycho.
I mean, she was a very beautiful girl, and that's what attracted Ryan to her. Like I said, I'm sure they had a great time behind closed doors.
Yeah,
but,
usually, from what I hear from my friends, those are the good ones.
It's like when you're in your 20s, you're wanting to have a good time, and you're growing in your career, and you're just looking to have fun. And unfortunately, this took a very 180-degree horrible turn, and someone lost their life. But based on everything that the neighbors say, they heard nothing other than gunshots. The fact that she said he threw her into a bookshelf, yet everything that was on that shelf was not disturbed. The fact that she Googled how to get into a locked bedroom and claimed that the fight carried on. I mean, she damned herself.
You can just tell she's just crazy. So it's just it's unfortunate. And thank you for telling the story. It's really sad.
It is very sad. And he had those 3 younger sisters who said that he was like everything to them. And it's very, very sad.
And as the commissioner of death, self-appointed commissioner of death, I would not give her the death penalty per se, but as long as she's behind bars, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. So thank you for telling this story. Thank you right now for listening. Anybody with AirPods in or headphones or listening.
Or in your car.
Anywhere there's
on
speakers.
Anything.
Yeah, wherever you are, we want to thank you. And if you want some more episodes, go ahead on over to Patreon or Apple subscriptions. Start a free trial right now. This is your sign. Start this snap. That's a free trial.
Are you hypnotizing us?
On count of 3, you'll start a free trial. Snap. There you go. So it's 7-day free trial. Give it a shot. You get, I think the most anybody's ever binged was like 37 episodes. So see if you can beat that.
I always say, I apologize that you had to hear my voice for that long. And I'm sure you had to pop a couple of Advil during that binge session.
Yeah. And go ahead, drop us a comment in Spotify. Somebody said that Apple has comments too, but I don't think that's a thing yet. So Spotify, there's like good conversations going on in there. So whatever. Hey, thanks for stopping by and being with us. And we appreciate all your support.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, bye.